welcome to the third episode of 5 in 5 in association with Nebula and the channel community. I'm really excited today. We're going to be welcoming somebody on today's 5 in 5 who's really passionate, in particular around diversity and women in the tech channel. And this really dovetails nicely into our first episode and the second episode on social mobility and social value as well. So this lady who's joining us today, many of you will know her, and she's a big advocate around diversity on social media. And I'm welcome to introduce today is Elisha Kirkham from Softcat, and Elisha's been with Softcat for, I think it's around 11 years now. So welcome, Elisha.
Hi, Rich. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you, and thanks for joining today. I know I know you're a very busy lady, and I know you're also very passionate about this topic. So I'm really excited, obviously, to go through sort of 5 key questions that I know you want to share your views on, and I think from your experiences both in Softcat and also the tech channel in general, be really interesting to hear your thoughts on these questions. And I think, without further ado, if we can kick off, if we may.
Absolutely. It's going to be a tough one, Rich, 5 in 5, but let's go.
Absolutely. we won't have it exactly to the stop clock, but we'll do our best to fit as much as we can, because, like we said before, the whole idea of this 5 in 5 is very much to give a real high-level view of a topic leaders across the channel are passionate about, and obviously yourself with diversity. But the idea is for people to reach out to you directly following this interview and probably talk in more depth. And I know there's a lot of momentum growing with some of these topics as well. So yes, so the first question, if I may. So
absolutely.
My first question, I guess, for you is, where did your passion for enabling diversity within the channel come from? Obviously, you've been 11 years at Softcat, and your roles evolved over those years, but where did that start?
Yeah, great question. So I'm going to try and keep this short and snappy because I am renowned for being a chatter. But to really boil it down, I think I've always been passionate about enabling other women. I've always been kind of that girl in the friendship group who wants to cheerlead everyone and wants them to do the best they possibly can. But I feel like where that really transferred over into my professional life and an impact on other people in a more significant way was upon my return back from maternity leave a few years ago. Had my little boy Max in 2021, returned back in 2022, and very much came back to work with it in my head that I didn't feel like I wanted to take a step back as other people were kind of telling me, just ease in, go slow. I was like, no, I don't want to. I want to accelerate. I've got so much energy. So it started in that space, in the way of I returned, and then I wanted to support other women with their return. And then it really broadened out quite quickly, and I became incredibly passionate about enabling other women and giving a voice to some of these challenges that we all face as women at some point in our career. So that's where it began. Going way back to the beginning of my career, I started on reception in the Manchester office for Softcat. No idea what I wanted to do at that time because I'd just finished uni, had a bit of an existential crisis, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, took a year out. And again, I feel like I absolutely look back at that time and go, I wouldn't be where I am today without the people around me at that point providing me with some guidance and some direction and believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself or didn't really know how to believe in myself at that stage at 22 years old. So I think that, plus my more recent experiences in returning myself from maternity leave, I think all accumulated in a way that just made me incredibly passionate about wanting to help other people realise their potential, specifically women, and kind of allow them to push through a lot of these barriers and challenges that we face in our careers. And I'm going to stop there.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's, I mean, that passion comes through, right? And ever since I've known yourself and more I've got to know you, I understand that passion and I get it. And I suppose what you're saying there with that sort of support network around you and stuff, obviously, a place like Softcat is probably one of the trailblazers, dare I say, in that space of supporting diversity and women in tech. And have been very much at the forefront of, dare I call it that sort of movement, if you like. But if we're looking further afield, how do you feel the wider IT channel is doing in terms of that diversity piece, and specifically around enabling more women in tech?
Yeah, it's another really great question. And I think it kind of has two answers. So you are so right. I'm kind of in my own little Softcat bubble over here, surrounded by all of the initiatives that we've run and all of the great work we do in this space. So that absolutely can make you kind of lull you into this false sense of security that we are making huge progress in this area. But I think that's a real reason why I am so passionate about getting out into the channel and understanding what does that look like outside of Softcat, what progress are other organisations making, and who's out there, who's having a voice in this space that wants to have a real impact. And I think the answer to your question there, Rich, is we have definitely made progress, undoubtedly, in the last 10 years since I've been in the channel. If you go back to when I first started at Softcat, even just our Manchester office alone looked worlds apart from what it looks like now. In terms of the level of diversity, both gender, ethnicity, all the different elements. So we definitely have come a long way, but there is no doubt in my mind that there is still more than a long way to go. And if you even just look at and have conversations with women, and that's a lot of what I do. It's not crazy innovative, like thinking about all these like unusual initiatives. It's just getting out into the channel, having conversations with the women, understanding those challenges, and really trying to get underneath the hood of we're all coming up against the same stuff. Confidence is the thing I hear time and time and time again. I want to do this. I feel like I can do this and I'm capable of doing this, but I just lack in confidence, or I'm worried about what people will think. And they are very much the age-old narratives that continue to keep coming up in these types of conversations. And in that way, my question would be, how much progress have we really made if I'm still having the same conversations with women now that I was having 5-10 years ago? What I do think we've made a lot of progress in is the voices of advocates in this space. Even just go onto LinkedIn. There is so much more of a strong stream of narrative and content and voices pushing against these age-old kind of conformist expectations put on us as women, that are now saying, actually, no, we don't have to be this way. We don't have to do these things. We don't have to align with this expectation. And that's really where progress starts, right? The more voices that do feel confident in pushing against the norms, the more other women see that and go, okay, so I don't have to align with this. I can carve my own path and I can do things differently. So in that way, we are definitely making progress. If you go back to a slightly more kind of strategic commercial perspective, absolutely, there are lots of organisations out there, Softcat included, who are proactively working to implement much more strategic approaches to enabling diversity, and specifically in early careers talent, right? Because that's where a lot of us are going to see and be able to have that impact at that more grassroots, graduate, first step into the channel level. That's where we can really have an impact on what the future of our industry is going to look like. So that's where the large majority of us, I think, are currently putting our attention. And I think that's probably the correct place to be putting it.
Yeah, that's, I mean, really strong points there, and I've got to absolutely agree in the sense that, you know, they're on 30 years in the industry. It's about obviously broadening the gene pool, dare I say it, and the talent pool, and to do that, it's no coincidence that successful businesses within our industry are diverse businesses as well. Mm-hmm. and talent is everywhere. It's just you have to go and find that talent, and I feel the progress we're making is very evident. I mean, more recently, the bit that opened my eyes, if you like, was a recent sort of round table dinner with some of the top 250 bars out there, and for the first time ever, we naturally, and this wasn't by going out on purpose to get these stats, but we had a 50-50 split between male and female. We had a good mix around diversity around the table, but also when you look at the top 250 that say an IT channel Oxygen have published recently, you know, 4 of the top 10 are now female-led businesses, right? And that is huge progress. So I think getting a balance, it's like getting a balance in anything in life. If we can get that balance right, we're in a good place. And I think that sort of segues nicely into my next question for yourself is, you know, what should senior management be doing to sort of create more inclusivity and in terms of the industry as a whole? You know, what else can they be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I agree with everything you've just said there, Rich. And I think that links quite nicely into this question and my answer, because I think first and foremost, we have to start with acknowledging that there is a challenge there. There is something that women do face throughout their entire career, but specifically in the early stages of their career, which is a lack of confidence and an over concern about how people are going to perceive them. Those two things unquestionably hold women back in their careers as it stands right now. So I think there is, first and foremost, the responsibility in a management or a leadership role to acknowledge that that exists, and then proactively think about how am I enabling every single woman coming into my team to understand that you absolutely should proactively work to identify what you bring to the table. What do you bring and what value do you offer that other people can't? What makes you special? Asking those really simple questions, which sound quite trivial, but in actual fact, we are conditioned as women to not have those conversations with ourselves. We're conditioned to wait to be validated rather than validate ourselves. So I think, and obviously I am coming at this from a very broad perspective. Obviously you do get women who are naturally more confident, but generally from my time out in the channel, the conversations I have internally within Softcat, as I said, the consistent theme is I lack in confidence. It's not that I don't think I'm capable. It's just I worry about how people are going to perceive me if I act more confident, if I voice my capabilities, if I talk about where I feel I excel or talk about my achievements. And again, unquestionably, that reluctance to own those things, there is no doubt in my mind it holds women back. So from a management and a leadership perspective, I think our responsibilities lie in creating spaces in which women from day one know that that will not be perceived negatively, that you can and should talk about your achievements and talk about where you feel your strengths lie, and to create spaces in which, if you are a woman yourself, you're role modeling those behaviours, because that's really key. And I think the other piece of this is definitely from kind of a mid-management perspective, acknowledging or checking yourself on your own imposter syndrome and acknowledging the impact that you and your behaviours have on other women around you. Because I have on countless occasions heard conversations from women in management roles talking about the fact that, oh, I wouldn't want to do that because what would people think, or how would that land, or oh, that feels a little bit braggy or arrogant. And obviously nobody wants to be perceived like that, but if you are just talking about something you've achieved or an area in which you feel you excel, the perception of that is incorrect, not you doing that is incorrect. So I think there are two responsibilities in management and leadership roles. Check yourself on your own impact and your own behaviours and make sure you're role modelling the right behaviours, from lower level management all the way up to senior leadership, and then creating spaces in which you are proactively setting the tone with the women in your team that is something that will add positively to your career versus have people view you in a less positive light.
Yeah, no, I think fantastic points. I love the idea of providing those safe and trusted environments, if you like, to share experiences and to give feedback and encouragement, because really, I suppose everybody has a certain level of prejudice in different senses, and that is just maybe installed in them from a very early age without them realizing some of those prejudices. So I think breaking down barriers and providing those safe spaces is absolutely paramount. And I think things like the channel community, obviously what they're trying to provide is that safe space for people to have open dialogue and sort of to put the cards on the table and to just share some of their concerns or share some of their challenges they're facing in their everyday role, or where the market's going. So yeah, I think it feels like as we're building more of those safe communities to share that information and to encourage, because the key is like anything, it's like with the children, it's you're just trying to help them find their own path, if you like, and provide that safe space to do that. And they're going to fail sometimes, but that's fine, because you learn from your mistakes. And I think you're right. And I think, from your perspective, obviously, 11 years in from when you started on reception in Manchester, has it always been easy for you, I guess, to be open about your identity in the workplace or in our industry as a whole?
Yeah, really good question. Yes. I would never sit here and kind of get my violin out and act like I've had a really tough time with it, because I haven't generally. Softcat have always been a really inclusive employer, workplace. I've never felt, even when I first started, when it was heavily weighted on the male side, I've never felt not heard or not valid in any conversation. But I absolutely acknowledge that I imagine in the minority there, because I have lots of conversations with other women around the fact that they do struggle, especially when they're in more male-dominated industries or roles, whether it be sales or sales within our tech industry, like it kind of doubles on. And I do know that there are absolutely challenges in that way when it comes to feeling like you have to over-assert yourself to be heard in a room, whether it be with customers or whether it be with other account managers or other internal resource, whatever that looks like. So I acknowledge there absolutely are challenges there. I think from my perspective, something that I've really had to grapple with, and it does kind of, it's a slightly left field answer, but it is related to what you've just asked, is my confidence, definitely since coming back from having had Max. I think I've had to really grapple with my confidence and how sometimes that's perceived by others. And I suppose that is very much linked to my identity and who I am. And it's not so much diversity related, but it does sit within that kind of women in tech space, because I very much acknowledge and have enough awareness, self-awareness to understand that I am probably more confident than most. And I am able, and I think that's why I am great at having these types of conversations and highlighting topics that maybe aren't being talked about or given the voice that they need, because I am more confident than most when it comes to talking about the tougher topics. But that absolutely can be perceived in a slightly more negative light by the wrong person. And absolutely, I've had questions in my mind of, am I being perceived as arrogant? Am I being perceived as somebody who just wants to talk about herself, or whatever that looks like? Those typical in your own head, worrying about what people think about you. And I've really had to kind of go on a bit of a journey with that over the last couple of years. And kind of seek advice from people who I trust the opinions of, and really just kind of go inwards and go, are my motivations correct? Are my intentions correct? Am I really coming at this from the right place of good intention? And I am. And that's really just kind of given me a much firmer understanding of myself and what I stand for and the values I feel I represent. And I feel like I've come out the end of that feeling much clearer on kind of my purpose. And I've thrown a lot of really cheesy words in there. I said journey, I said purpose. There's a lot going on there, Rich. But that's something I've definitely dealt with and struggled with at times. I feel like I now understand more about who I am and what I have to offer and how I can support other people. And for me, that's a win.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think, and thank you for being so open and honest with that, because I think as soon as you get comfortable in your own skin and what your purpose is and what for me, it's your moral compass, right? I've always, I've had to make difficult decisions over the years in business because my moral compass didn't align with the environment I was in, and that has been hard to take sometimes. But if one thing that age, I suppose, does give you is that reflection and hindsight of, actually, was that the right choice at that time? Because you don't really know at that time, and I can absolutely say it was. And if you don't trust in yourself, who can you trust in, right? It's got to start with you. And you're right. I think being open and honest with people and bringing the real you to the table, and bringing the real you to your role every day of what you have at, say, Softcat is important. And not everybody gets on, right? Not everybody has the same values, but I think if people understand who the real Leash is, then that's fine, right? That's fine, because it's good to disagree, right? Sometimes, and as long as it's done in a healthy and sort of articulate way, that's fine. There's nothing personal in this world. It's just about being professional and holding accountable. And I guess I know we've run over the 5 minutes, as we tend to.
We definitely have.
But we could talk for hours on this. But I guess just to wrap up the sort of the final bookend to this episode is, from your perspective, obviously we are sort of, I suppose we are the outcome of many engagements with many different people over our personal lives and professional lives. But from your perspective, who's been sort of, I guess, some of your biggest role models in life to where you are today? And obviously the journey's still going, but to this point, who would you give those sort of shout outs to, whether that's personal or professional?
Yeah, again, a really, really good question. So I've been asked this question a lot on various different podcasts or panels, and I always kind of name the same people. So I was trying to think about this from a slightly different angle today, and rather than name specific individuals, I was kind of going inwards and thinking, what makes me look at someone and go, they're a role model, they're somebody that makes me want to do more, be more. And regardless of level, regardless of seniority, it always boils down to, can they authentically and truly own who they are? Like exactly what me and you have just talked about there. Have they done the work to go inwards, understand themselves, and are comfortable owning that in a obviously non-combative way? And I think they're the people that I look at and feel are really aspirational, regardless of what role they're in, that regardless of how long they've been in the channel. It's more, I think it does boil down to that values piece for me.
Yeah.
Can you, or are you willing to do the work? It's not easy. Are you willing to really look at yourself and go, where are my strengths? Where do I fall short? And what do I actually feel like I want to give to the world and give to the people around me? They're the people I find aspirational. And I have many, I'm very, very lucky. I have many people around me, both at Softcat and outside of Softcat, who I very much see that in. And I think it's also worthwhile, because this piece has been about women specifically, but I want to take this opportunity to shout out very much the male allies that I've got around me. I'm so lucky to have a number of men around me, both professionally and personally, who proactively have done the work themselves to understand the challenges that women face in their careers, and are doing what they can to have an impact in this space. And I find that, again, very inspirational and just makes me feel hopeful, because we have to acknowledge that the world we live in now, that we are heavily weighted from even in an organisation, at a senior leadership perspective. Most of our organisations do have the large proportion of their senior leadership team being men, and having those men understanding these challenges and really working to make a difference and make a change is just absolutely key to seeing any substantial change moving forward. So I just wanted to take a moment to highlight those guys as well, because I wouldn't be where I am today without a number of men that have really supported and enabled me over the years.
I think that's a really important point, Leash, because like you say, the supporting sort of women in our industry, right, is quite often seen as an anti-men type of approach to things, and that's not the case, right? We know that's not the case. This is about, I think from my personal perspective, I can only talk about, but for example, I've got an 18-year-old daughter, and those sort of life skills that you pick up by bringing your daughter up from an early age and trying to set her out the best she could possibly be in what she wants to do, that gives you much more empathy and understanding of regardless of the industry, what some of the struggles different people are up against, right? And she's now gone into teaching in primary school, so that actually is a very female orientated position, right? And like, I'm in a role where I was a minority over the years, especially when I started out in marketing. So marketing generally is a female-led department, right? So, but I've never seen it as male or female or anything else. And I think what I find refreshing in listening to you today is this isn't about saying, you know, women are better than men and we need more women because they're the answer to this. This is about getting a balance. This is all about giving people a fair chance and giving and by building those diverse teams, we bring much higher performing teams. You know, it's research tells us that, right? And we know that, and you know, and I will shout it out again. And but Softcat are a good example of that, and there's many others in the channel doing the same thing. So yeah, I think I know we've gone over the 5 minutes, but I think we've only skimmed the surface of
100%.
5 key questions there, and honestly, I really thank you for your time today, and I'm hoping this will enable people to reach out to you directly. That's the idea of the 5 in 5. Is it's something people can just listen to over their lunch break or whatever, and just help inspire those people to reach out to yourself and those in your network to understand actually how can you embrace diversity and how can it be a sort of a positive beacon for hope for others to sort of follow suit. So yeah, thank you for your time today.
You're so welcome,
Rich. And yeah, I look forward to sort of following the conversation on at another day.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Rich.
All the best. Thank you, Elisha.